Playtime's over, buddy. Gotta go.
Ready to make a mess?
Let us handle this.
I think you're something special.
How would they know what they want if they haven't even seen it yet?
All right, we are back, everyone, on Play It Forward with the lovely, the talented 𝘉𝘠𝘳. Among other things, very intelligent, capable filmmaker. Thank you, B, for being on the show today. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm looking to forward to our conversation. And to kick us off, can you please introduce yourself generally and then set up A Star is Born?
Oh God. Okay. I am 𝘉𝘠𝘳. You can also call me B for short. I am a writer, director, image maker. The reason why I say image maker is because I also want to forward the images that you see, right? Like I want to create a different landscape that you're not necessarily tapping into all the time in terms of the stories that we see around folks from the African diaspora, whether it be through photos or stills or installation work. So I put that in there as well. And then a film that I was lucky to do through a program with Warner Brothers is called Star is Born, but it's me reimagining it. So my take is a more like sci-fi YA take on it. My main character, Clover, she's a girl who's an artist. You can tell from her clothes, from the way that she dresses. You know, she's deeply almost like this emo kid who loves her parents, loves her mom, loves her grandmother deeply, but then kind of gets thrusted into this competition out of nowhere. And you can see that it kind of blindsides her a little bit. And through her, I guess you could say, search for identity or search for self-acceptance, she, by the end of the film, hopefully you get that she's um, someone who stays true to herself, even if she has to go through a lot of hardship and struggles. And so I don't want to give it away too much, but it's got, I would say, the hero's journey kind of concept in it, but I'm doing it through kind of like this near future, dystopian-ish vibes. You could even say like maybe someone was saying like it felt like the pandemic, right? Like how some of the things that were happening in there. So yeah, I hope it feels timely. I hope you resonate with it. Even if you don't present the way that she presents, I hope that you can still see her as kind of this outcast, this pariah who, um, is not kind of traditional and conventional. And because she's not those things, she kind of is brushing against the old systems. And I think that's kind of like indicative of like the times that we're in, where it's like old meets new. And we're seeing it in politics, we're seeing it in the cosmos, we're seeing it in the way that people treat each other. And I think hopefully my film can be like a um, talking or conversation, for folks.
Yeah. Great intro and setup to the film. I think you captured it perfectly. Well done. Something that you might find interesting is a quote I recently came by from Mark Twain, and he basically said something to the effect of is that today's conservatives are those who are entrenched in what was initially radicalism.
Mm.
So it's interesting how, these ideas that are in first radical can get sort of stale over the years, and then they become a doctrine that is a dogma. So how do you keep things from getting fresh, old or stale, and keep it fresh? And your film is exploring a age-old topic in terms of the theme and being true to yourself. And how do we do that in a world where the message may look and be different than from who we feel we truly are? And how do we keep that fresh and keep re-exploring that message and telling it over and over and over again so we can, keep that radicalism real and fresh. So with that, maybe a little bit about yourself. How did you become a filmmaker? How did you get into it?
Yeah, and thank you for that because I do think we're just, I don't know, sometimes I'm trying to figure out, I'm just worried about humanity sometimes. I know you didn't ask for all of that,
No, you're not
but
alone. Go.
I just wonder how we as filmmakers, as storytellers, as image makers confuse what's happening and our messaging into the world. I think the artists that I love the most weren't afraid to speak to the times. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of artists feel like they can't say something because they're going to get canceled. Or, if they say one wrong thing, it's like a community might annihilate them, on social media. And I think we really need to create more grace for each other, more space to grow. And I just don't come from this, I don't know, this space of being so harsh because it's just like, a lot of us make mistakes, even on sets, right? We make mistakes, even if we've done this a million times. So it's just like, I just really wish that maybe in my utopia, that there would just be like just more grace in this new time that we're entering. But yeah, the
I
reason
love
how
that.
yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. And
Well,
that's really the open-mindedness, that we're all, keep talking about, but how do we live it? How do we allow people to make those mistakes, have a conversation that may say, hey, I think that wasn't nice, that wasn't good, that wasn't this, that, the other, and I can still forgive you, have an open heart, and let's see if we can change together.
yeah, I'm like, I guess I just miss that, like with humanity and also films, right? Like films that say something. And I, like grew up watching different types of films, right? Like I didn't see The Matrix until I was like an adult, but like I love things like that. Or E.T., amazing. Jaws, amazing. Really loved also just like niche films like The Five Heartbeats or Love and Basketball. And I think I wanted to be some type of person in film, whether it was more so like a journalist or a writer. But when I went to Italy and I studied abroad there, my professor was like, "You're writing like you see stories and like you tell stories. Would you ever consider filmmaking?" And so I went back to my parents and
Mm,
said, "Hey, parents, instead of doing like journalism, public policy, how about I move into this filmmaking thing?"
mm,
And they were not having it. And
mm.
so I just worked, I don't know if I can curse on here, so
Yeah,
I'll
yeah, yeah, it's good.
yeah, just like I feel like I just worked like hell to also prevent like to show them that I could do this. And I think I've been like having this force on my back for a while and I have allowed it to get me to this point. But I think now I'm at a place where I think I have to start over. And I don't say that in a bad way. It's just I have won the awards, right? I have gone to the fancy schools like NYU and have been a part of a ton of programs, and that's all great. But I think I'm a non-conventional filmmaker, and I'm gonna have to figure out a way to make films and images that really resonate with me and the people that I feel like I've been able to meet over the years. I feel like I've, been successful and I'm appreciative of like a lot of doors being open up for me, but I've also had to work like hell to keep those things open. And it's been a lot of like throwing spaghetti on the wall and not knowing if it's going to stick. A lot of disrespect, right? Even with winning these so like supposed accolades and things or barometers of success, still feeling like the new kid on the block every time I walk on set, not because of what I'm doing, but sometimes the environment that still doesn't welcome someone like me. So it's been challenging where it's like all I want to do is make this thing, make these creations that I have in my head. Um, but I can't always say that the system has been welcoming. So I'm really trying to figure out how do I foster true community and true support when sometimes it feels like, you know, people might be envious because of your position on the ship, right? Because they may have not done it themselves, or they're not brave enough to do it. Not because I want to be judgmental towards them, because I get that there are a lot of circumstances, but that allow people not to direct. But I don't know. I think a lot of people want to be directors, but also don't know what like comes with being a director. So yeah, I
I
don't know
love
if I.
it. I love it, B. I totally appreciate where you're at and where the transparency and truthfulness of what you're sharing
Yeah.
is. And, to give the audience a little perspective, I watched this film, A Star is Born. I mean, you've got like Hulu and Warner Brothers behind you. I mean, you're doing some ridiculous visual effects and the production and set value. I mean, there's some, cash was thrown into this. And that's what every filmmaker thinks they need to make a movie. And here you are saying, "Hey, I've done that. I've had success with that." And whatever that was, which was a great experience, no doubt, and a huge learning experience, I'm sure, no doubt, and a huge accomplishment as well. Um, the fact is there is a certain satisfaction, an internal as an artist, and a creative purity, as you mentioned that word earlier before we started talking, that creative purity of purpose and intention. And how do you do that and achieve that in a commercially oriented, well, forget industry, culture, and so that being a challenge, the reality that nobody, no filmmakers really grasp is the limited amount of jobs. The employability of a filmmaker is is less than 1%. That's for sure. Right. It's closer to that, than another number, zero. So unless you're going into advertising, right, and doing commercial, that's a game that's hard to crack as well. It's super difficult to get into as well. So if you're trying to go after telling stories and you're in a traditional mindset where I need cash, I need cash, I need cash, then
Yeah.
you're feeling hemmed in, what's pinned, you're trapped, right? You're feeling trapped, hamstring, whatever. So, so how do you break free, break through that? And as artists, that is like that's the stuff, right? So that's the flame that you've got to go through to be pure, to be true. And getting back to the movie now, here we have this young artist. She's kind of sold out, kind of not, but and then she goes through this transformative process of, okay, I'm going to try to do what I'm told to be, and I'll see
Mhm.
how that works, and it doesn't work for her, and in the end she goes back to who she is. And that's a
Right.
process that's life. That's We all go through that thing. We can all relate to that, whether that's in a corporate world or in a non-corporate world, or parent, family structure, whatever box that we were born into and live in. So I think, the first question to play forward is, well, how is it in your life? What is it in your life to have been the dynamics that have really inspired you to commit to this theme and making a film around this theme?
Yeah, and I appreciate your assessment of like everything that I was just, I mean, I gave you a lot, so I really
Thank you.
appreciate
I
you.
summarized well.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
great.
wrap it up.
I was like, okay, we can do more interviews together,
Thank
but
you.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think I've always wanted to do films about like the rejects, right? The pariahs, the outcasts, the folks who feel kind of like on the fringe of society, the folks who don't really feel like someone really cares, because it's like they're so used to being invisible and so used to just kind of being passed over. And I think for just a long part of my life has been feeling in a way like that. I mean, even still, I mean, I can still win these awards or whatever and go in rooms and still people look at me like a deer in headlights. So I think I make films with people like that in mind, just to let them know, like, hey, there's someone else who's going through this thing too, and you're not alone. And I know that that might sound cliche, but I make films to feel. And I think it's so sad to like watch films these days and they have like amazing lenses. They have all the visual effects. They have all the production design, but I didn't feel anything from it. I like literally get emotional all the time watching films when I'm going back from New York to LA. Like I don't know. I think films make me process things that maybe I'm like trying to avoid. And so it's just sad to me that we're living in a time sometimes where we have all the toys, we all have all the tricks, but there's no like grit, there's no actual like cerebral experience. So I'm trying to get back to that as an artist, like feeling, yeah, it might be a pretty picture to look at, but for me, um, story is king.
Yeah.
Like beyond the other things that you see in my films, like story is still what I hope that you walk away with
Yeah.
feeling like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm glad I spent, 20 minutes watching her short or, 72 minutes or 75 minutes watching her feature doc,
Yep.
like that wasn't a waste of time. If anything, it was additive. It added to my life. It wasn't a subtractive.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
situation because I can't tell you how many movies I've watched where I'm like, God, I wish I could get my 3 hours back.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And you're waiting for it. You
Yeah.
know, you're like, I've invested this much already. Give it to me. And what we want is, you know,
Mhm.
when we're young and childlike and immature, and that's what I mean by childlike, immature. I have a 5-year-old, so I'm relating to her. She wants sweets. Yeah, she's cute, but she's a pain. She wants sweets. About you've got some. Do you have a one of your
I
own? Yeah.
don't, I don't, but I want a child. I just
Okay.
want, I don't know, I want all of that. And sometimes I don't know, sometimes I feel like, do you get to have a family in film, especially more so for a woman than a man? I think with men, you guys have a
Sure.
little bit more autonomy, but I think with women, it's just a little trickier, in biology too. So yeah,
For
but
sure. For sure.
you're
I
saying
think
you're
I feel sending out blessings for you. You can have it all. Um, But what I was saying is something to the effect of, oh, the content is, yeah, the story is king. That's what content is king. The big line refers to the story. Story is king. And I think what we all want is, as kids, it's like, oh, we want sweet, we want candy, right? And we don't know as we mature, after a while, you get so much candy, it's, rots your teeth, makes you sick, it's too much. You want a meal, and you need that nourishment, and that nourishment comes with wisdom, with growth, with give me something that I can feel, and I can integrate that knowledge in a way that it's beyond knowledge. It is wisdom, the highest knowledge. It's not just a fact, but it's something that I can utilize to change my outlook on the world, right? And that's all going back to that lens and perspective and story, and the this unique aspect of stories, that people talk about. That's, like the thing that separates the humans from the animals is a story, right? So, that being at the core of what you're doing, see, to me, I look at you and I say, and I hear you saying, well, there's not enough of that. And I'm saying, yeah, it is. You're enough. You're doing it, and your leadership in that that's it. You know, that's all. So, so that's how I see that, and I totally appreciate in terms of, feeling like a pariah. Yeah, at some point, you just can't go through the human experience without it. If you were the prom king or queen, you go back 20 years later, you see him like, whoa, at some point, it happens, and you just got to deal with your own humanity and accepting and forgiving and just loving yourself, right? That's all that there is. Um, so kind of switching it up a little bit and getting into that giving us the insight. You know, we were talking earlier about you are an expert. You have gotten your master's, your PhD in story. You made this movie. You just got a degree in A Star Is Born, and you're dealing with these characters, and you're dealing with this theme, and you're dealing with that moment where she takes off her wig and shows her real hair. You know, and that being the climatic scene, right? So how now that you've experienced this as a writer, as a director, as a artist, as somebody who's gone through this process, and then you kind of excavate it and put it out on a canvas for others to see. How do you interpret the meaning of your work now that you may watch it?
Wow. Oh man. I mean, I think we all could be different characters in this movie, right? Like
Yeah.
whether it's Clover or Stormy or Astra or Skylar or Saul, right? Like I think I see myself, you know, almost like, I mean, there's a lot of similarities between Clover and myself, but I'm not fully Clover, right? But there are definitely things that I think she had to learn that I had to learn. And I think in this new chapter of my life of like rebirth and transformation, it's going back to self, but 2.0. It's like healing. I think I'm in the space of healing my inner child and like, what did she want to do? How did she want to play? And being that in real time and real life. And it's like, whether it's glitter, whether it's wearing two earrings, whether it's, um, just taking your freak flag and like busting it out, for the whole world to see. I think, I'm just really excited for the journey ahead, even though it looks and feels very uncertain and feels very murky. I think I'm trying to also, similar to Clover, just like dive in, whether it's if you try to contort yourself or not, ultimately you come back to yourself. And I think I'm in a place of coming back to myself too, but 2.0, not just, where we started, but a little bit further ahead, which is great. And so, yeah, I mean, I think that that's so sweet that you say I'm a PhD in A Star is Born, but I hope that also people will just, I guess, another message that I hope that people will take from it is like, you know, I think we're so glued to these phones, and the phones are just like messing us all up, whether it's brain rot or just not really having a present communication with our spouse, with our partner, with our friends, right? And we're allowing these algorithms to almost dictate a real life experience. And I would really behoove everyone to hopefully put the phone down more. Stop letting algorithms, stop letting your popular page or what social media is saying dictate a real life human emotion and experience that you're having with another person. I think so many people are desperate for connection, but they're not putting themselves out there, and they're not allowing themselves to be flawed or to not always get it right. And I hope seeing Clover's experience will help people, especially who deal with social anxiety, to not be afraid to put themselves out there, whether it's having a conversation with a stranger or going on a date safely, right? But like, I don't know. I think that's also a part of my work is the connection component, and trying to figure out how do we not let technology become our complete barometer, like of thinking. I think we still have brains. We should still use them, whether you believe in AI, don't believe in it, don't like it, or do. I think you still are a human being with a full range of emotions and dreams and desires, and you should live in that and breathe in that and not let social media or some type of machine dictate who you are. So, those are
Yeah.
my, I think, takeaways, biggest takeaways from the film.
Yeah. Um, it's there's a lot there, and there's a lot in, I guess, the new old. And so what I mean by the new old is like here's new technology that's controlling our behavior, and yet we are behaving in a way that is perpetuating the technology that controls our behavior. So, and it's happened. Television was a part of that, and but this is like a TV that you carry in your pocket and do other stuff with all the time. That is, and you're getting that little hit, that little, ooh, that it's just instant, right? And so it can be very addicting, and especially for young minds that are developing and forming new habits and behaviors that are teenagers. And I was an adult when I got this, so I was a young adult, but I'm still an adult. My brain at least was developed, um, from a biological standpoint and physiological. And so you've got that extra kind of layer of pressure and conformity. When I was growing up, I, saw, I was a skater kid where that wasn't where the predominant culture was in my kind of thing. And I sold out because I thought I needed to do that to get in with the girls and the boys and be cool. And that was like one of the worst things I've ever done in my life. That really compromised my authenticity, who I was. It stunted my growth, and it was very painful. Both would have been painful. To stay true would have been painful, maybe less painful, arguably, but it doesn't matter. Whatever. That was my path. So doing that, having gone through that, knowing, the human, the level of courage it takes, and like what you were saying, like there's a certain amount of vulnerability. We have to self-explore. And in the process of self-exploration, we have to be vulnerable and kind of disclose what we're feeling in the moment. And that could be a challenge. And when we have these other distractions that, well, we don't have to do that. We can just do this. We'll do we have these emojis that are already pre-boxed for us. Just throw those out. So, it's easy not to, or easier, for young people today, and even older people. Man, my wife's parents, man, they watch the show. Hi, Ma, and she's, they're the first thing they do in the morning is, you know, and so it's generational, right? And so all that kind of as in like the milieu of like the box that we're in, and the tension with who we truly are, and the steps of cracking that box, and finding a light, like the Truman Show, where he realizes he was, so you're like in that place. You're in a really unique, special, beautiful, like magical, like sacred place of
Really?
taking. Yeah, 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 for sure. You're like, you're the warrior, you're the hero. You're coming into, like, what is the director? The director is the person that holds the vision, and then crafts the elements around that vision. So you're holding that flame, right? That light, and you're guiding, walking towards it. And so in your journey, what are the steps? What are the essential steps right now
Mm.
that you're taking and feeling like, okay, this is a light for me to the next step?
Yeah. Wow. Ooh, what is okay? I'm trying to make sure I get this. This is a lot.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. Okay. I feel like it's a lot of things, all at once.
Mm,
For me, it's like writing, right? Like getting back to what are the stories that I want to tell.
yeah.
Mm, with all of this new perspective, right? Or how do I even revisit old work that that I've done in the past, and now I can see, oh, okay, maybe we did need a rewrite, or maybe, there were some things that were missing, right? So it's me really being honest about what I want to see and what I want to mold and what I want to create. And I also feel like I'm not the only one co-creating this. So I feel like my crew is very much my co-expansionists. That's what I call them, meaning that they're expanding this vision that, yes, I have in my head, but hopefully you're always, for anyone who's a filmmaker, you're getting crew and cast members who I call my supernovas, who basically are just expanding this vision, right? And you're building this beautiful world together. So I think identifying those people too, and like I met a lot of incredible people from this film, Star is Born. So definitely want to take them on the next journey with me. Um, Reading scripts, supporting other friends, right? Whether it's musicians, filmmakers, taking in all types of art. So it's not just film, but maybe it's like photography or pottery, dancing. And I think I'm just in this place of like, it's very slow right now, right? And so while it's slow, let me feed my soul. And so I'm just trying to feed my soul as much as I can so that when the next opportunity presents itself or the next opportunity that maybe I'm creating, that I feel like I have, again, enough fuel again, because sometimes as beautiful as projects can be, they can take it out of you too. And I came off of, A Star is Born. Before A Star is Born, I had another project that was a lot. So I think I'm still just trying to make sure that I'm in a great place as the captain of the ship so that when I do get the time to do my thing, we're ready. Because, similar to what you were saying, as the director, you have to know all, see all, like people are looking to you for vision and foresight. And I love that. But there's also just some challenges and obstacles sometimes that I have faced, and they're not fair, right? But they can really take the wind out of your sails. And so for me, I just want to make sure that I'm, you know, ready for the next opportunity because I love this thing so much. I just want to also feel, I think, creatively safe.
Mm.
And that's been something that I'm also pondering on um, in this field. Like, can you ever feel creatively safe when you have different people who are kind of playing with your vision? Yes, when you're the director, you're the captain of the ship, but when you're not financing the project, there's still people who can muddle with your vision or still having to fight. For instance, I had to fight to keep the salon scene that you see in my film. I was told that that scene was too preachy. And I felt like this scene is not preachy, it's just making you uncomfortable, And so it's like when you constantly have to deal with fighting constantly, like at every turn, sometimes it's just like, why am I dealing with so much opposition all the time? Like, all I
Yeah.
want to do is make art. So yeah, I say all that to say I'm just feeding my soul more and more for the next opportunity. But I hope also with the fires, because everyone is always so focused on the big thing and not the other things, is the subtext of it all is that we need to be better to each other, to our earth. And the fires are like what you see, the visual, and it's catastrophic. It's devastating. I'm not in LA, but the videos show it. But I think also the subtext of it all is that we need to be better humans to Earth, to each other. We need to treat each other better. And I hope that that also will trickle over into our industry. I know a lot of people are like, film in LA, shoot in LA, because again, you want production to come back to LA. But how do you treat people when they come to LA? How are you treating your people? So,
Well, that's beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. Uh, a little piece maybe that I was reminded of that can offer you something is, in terms of how do you stay, you know, rooted in your convictions and not feel like you're fighting. And I look to Gandhi for that. Um, and he had this concept called satyagraha. I looked it up exactly the definitions, and it it's the one that I found isn't necessarily the one that I want, but it's satya is truth, and graha it's a firmness. So it's defined here as a firmness. So truth force, that's what it was. Truth force, grahas force. So this clinging to truth, that idea of clinging to truth, just standing in the truth, and to be able to stand in the truth in the face of adversity, or some sort of animosity of coming at you, somebody not wanting to see that truth. And I think you're right. I think that scene, you're right about that scene. It may have made that person who is, thinking about their end customer, that may make them uncomfortable. It's important, and to be able to say, well, this, I understand your opinion, and this, and to do that in a way that, doesn't feel like a fight. It's something it helps with, keep protecting our own energy.
Yeah.
Um, in space. Last question, B. Monet. How have you been personally changed since making A Star is Born?
Oh, wow. I just want to make my own stuff.
Keep going.
Yeah, I think it was inspiring to get back to narrative. You know, I've been doing a lot of commercials as of late and really grateful for those things because, you know, need to keep the lights
Yep.
on.
Food on the
Um,
table.
you know, but and documentaries I've been doing a lot. But if I'm being honest, like I've always wanted to make, narrative films. And so I don't know, getting back to like A Star is Born and writing and directing and I wasn't necessarily AEing it, but I was very much a part of the edit, like literally telling my editor, this needs to be for 5 seconds, this needs to be for 3 seconds. She's doing it, right? But it's like I'm just a very hands-on director. That's my training, whether people like it or not. But yeah, it just made me so inspired to like get back in my narrative bag. That's always what I've wanted to do. And I feel like I've deviated a little bit from the course because, a lot of us filmmakers are not rich and we got to make a living. So yeah, I want to find a way to like
There's a way. There's a
support it.
way.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome, B. I appreciate your passion and for that purity of work, and there is a way to make art based on the financial constraints. And you don't need $1 million or tens of thousands of dollars to make a short, certainly, and or a feature. And the way I have kind of come at it is to script with what I have. So I have this, that, the other. Oh, we're gonna make a story around that. And
Yeah.
and it may be, very humble, but it keeps it pure for me. So, um, with that said, B. Monet, thank you so much for being on Play It Forward. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. Rising leader and current leader, we look to you for, you know, example and courage, for our courage. You see you being courageous, I'm going to be courageous. Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for this time and space. This was amazing.
Oh, thank you. Super kind. It was a pleasure. All right, everybody, I'll play it forward out. Bye. B Monet. Next time, we'll see you back.